Sister Little Fairy Doctor. Seeing Xiao Yin standing motionless not far away, Xun'er couldn't help but speak with concern. Xiao Yin's power was chaotic, but when it came to defending against poison, he only had the strength of a deer's antlers. Moreover, his opponent was a poison woman from the Cold Moon Palace, which made the pressure even greater. Naturally, Xun'er was worried. It's fine. For a moment, Sister Little Fairy Doctor slowly turned her gaze towards Xun'er and spoke to comfort her. But after a moment, her eyes shifted to the distant mountains outside the Mirror Moon Palace, where there seemed to be a faint aura in the hidden void, locking onto them. The reincarnation seal on her forehead subtly emitted a slight fiery fluctuation. With the strength and status of Poison God Mysterious Crane, if something could cause her reincarnation seal to react like this, it was likely a strong figure connected to Poison God Mysterious Crane. At the foot of Mirror Moon Palace, everyone saw Xiao Yin standing quietly in place, his eyes tightly shut. A layer of yellow poison mist surrounded him, accompanied by chaotic emotions fluctuating within it. On the other side, the poison woman, Leng Qingchen, had also entered a similar state as Xiao Yin, but her beautiful face was furrowed, seemingly struggling against something. Poof! Suddenly, Xiao Yan's eyes snapped open, and a mouthful of bright red blood slowly trickled from the corner of his mouth. But the next moment, Xiao Yan's lips curled into a sinister smile. Without hesitation, a brilliant layer of flame surged from his body, and with a burst, he shot toward Leng Qingchen, roaring through the air. Thud. At the same time, Leng Qingchen slowly opened her eyes, her gaze filled with shock. The poison of love's sorrow is indeed sinister and vile. But it's over now. Xiao Yin closed in on Leng Qingchen, his hand clenched into a fist as he lightly pressed it against her delicate body. When he was just 1 meter from her, all the attacking energy came to a sudden halt. However, the power contained within it subtly caused the space in front of Leng Qingchen to ripple. Had Xiao Yin not suddenly withdrawn his attack, this force would have likely been enough to annihilate Leng Qingchen's body and soul. Why? Why were you able to break through my love-sorrow domain? Watching Xiao Yan's actions, Leng Qingchen's body once again released countless poison mists. She trembled violently and began retreating. The battle was decided. Love's sorrow poison is indeed powerful and vicious, but it is not without a cure. As long as there is breath, there is hope for eternity. Xiao Yin halted his attack and didn't deal the finishing blow. After all, his main purpose in coming to the Poison God Palace was to find Sister Little Fairy Doctor. As one of the 3 branches of the Poison God Palace, Cold Moon Palace was undoubtedly an inseparable force. I lost. Leng Qingchen looked at Xiao Yin with a complicated gaze. He indeed possessed a strength and aura unlike anyone she had ever seen, especially when she had used the love-sorrow poison domain. Even with 5-colored poison coursing through him, this man had somehow resolved it with an almost fearless willpower. Even from Leng Qingchen's lofty perspective, she had never seen such a terrifying strength and such a resolute human will. I failed to break the mountain. After a moment, Leng Qingchen gave a nostalgic glance at the rear, lightly shook her head, and turned to leave. Though proud and aloof, she was not one to refuse defeat. On the contrary, her defeat to Xiao Yin had given her a new understanding of her love-sorrow poison skills. The poison woman of Cold Moon Palace, defeated by a human from the human realm, brought back by the poison soul child? The human is only at the peak of the first-tier reincarnation stage, yet he managed to defeat Leng Qingchen, one of the masters of Cold Moon Palace's twin poisonous evil techniques, whose strength had already reached the second-tier reincarnation stage. Inside Mirror Moon Palace, several onlookers couldn't help but speak in awe, their voices filled with admiration and caution. Boom! A rumbling sound echoed from the mountains outside Mirror Moon Palace as a plume of white smoke slowly rose. The ghostly white smoke floated in the air, slowly dissipating, before contracting slightly at the base of the mountain. It seemed as if a massive aura was coalescing there. As the smoke appeared, a powerful and ancient aura began to awaken, causing the surrounding space to hum with energy. Glug! The deputy palace master of Cold Moon Palace, Leng Qingchen. Seeing this scene, several older figures spoke, their voices tinged with disbelief. The newcomer wore simple blue robes, exuding a gentle and approachable aura. However, a sinister smile remained on their face, making one feel uneasy. "Master, I've lost. Let's go." Leng Qingchen slowly shook her head, speaking softly as she began to retreat toward her own residence. This guy. At that moment, Sister Little Fairy Doctor and the poison-souled child exchanged deep glances, as if they were wary of something. Xiao released a soft wave of energy, protecting the two women, while his gaze remained vigilant, watching the opponent with a sense of impending danger. Heh, poison-soul child, do you know your crime? In the blink of an eye, Leng Qingchen suddenly began to move, slowly walking towards poison-soul child. His gaze kept shifting between Xun'er and Xiao, wearing a smug, gloating expression. The Poison God Palace was divided into the 3 palaces and 6 gates, with numerous factions vying for power. However, the true decisive forces were only the 3 palaces, and between them, the constant struggle for supremacy was inevitable. Upon hearing this, Xiao expression slowly grew serious, and in his pitch-black eyes, a trace of the extremely violent sacred flame essence quietly spread. A mere 4th-tier reincarnation stage would pose no threat to Xiao now. If it came down to a life-or-death battle, the outcome would be uncertain. "No need," Sister Little Fairy Doctor said calmly, slowly walking up to Xiao and giving him a gentle smile. The smile was captivating, as if it contained endless unspoken words. Xiao did not stop Sister Little Fairy Doctor. Instead, he felt some ancient power rapidly gathering and converging within her body. "I don't understand the crime that Deputy Palace Master Leng Qingchen speaks of. What crime do I have?" Poison-souled child locked eyes with Sister Little Fairy Doctor, and a sinister, treacherous poison mist spread out as she coldly retorted. "Our demon realm and human realm have always been at odds. You went to the human realm searching for disciples with the potential to inherit the poison god's legacy, but that doesn't mean you can bring back any random fools. Considering that neither of them shows any sign of poison aura, I think we should deal with them right here. I'm sure the Mirror Moon Palace Master would be happy to agree. After all, the Mirror Moon Palace Master experienced a tragic past when nearly being erased by the humans of the human realm." Leng Qingchen sneered, seemingly trying to provoke a conflict, indifferent to the consequences. "Ha ha. Annoying old fool." Xiao and Xun'er exchanged a glance, both standing slowly beside Sister Little Fairy Doctor, as the majestic and divine glow of sacred flame began to unfold with unmatched power. "This time, let me handle it. You've helped me so many times. I don't want to keep relying on your kindness." As the two violent forces began to surge, a sweet voice rang out, accompanied by an ancient, profound greenish energy ripple that slowly spread from somewhere beneath the ground. The moment the greenish energy ripple expanded, it caused a shockwave through the hearts of all the poison cultivators present, sending a wave of long-forgotten terror and reverence through them. Such a tremor and fluctuation were something only the highest-ranking elders of the Poison God Palace, or the Poison God himself, could emit. "Gulu. What is this?" "Deputy Palace Master Leng Qingchen, could you repeat what you just said?" At this moment, Sister Little Fairy Doctor had completely transformed from her usual gentle, silent demeanor into a cold-blooded queen with the power to control life and death. Her words were filled with an undeniable, domineering authority. An extremely terrifying aura emanated from her, as if it had slowly awakened from endless eons, carrying the weight of countless years, causing everyone present to feel deep dread. "What is it inside you?" At this moment, Leng Qingchen felt the cold murderous intent in Sister Little Fairy Doctor's words and the mysterious power within her body. His own poison cultivation, poison cores, and other powers quickly began to solidify, as if even his own vitality was being sealed under her strange aura. "Leng Qingchen, you really are becoming more and more arrogant." The Poison Hag's figure slowly appeared beside Sister Little Fairy Doctor. Poison mist spread out from both of their bodies, accompanied by a profound, ancient aura. Greenish energy ripples surged from Sister Little Fairy Doctor's feet. Poof! As this scene unfolded, figures around the foot of the mountain suddenly knelt uncontrollably in reverence towards Sister Little Fairy Doctor. We bow to the poison god reincarnation. Many powerful figures from Mirror Moon Palace spoke with deep respect and fervor. There was no hint of displeasure. They all lowered their heads humbly, shouting in unison, "For these powerhouses from the three palaces of the poison god domain." No one understood the power and aura of the poison god and the elders better than them. The ancient aura in that greenish energy could not be a mistake. If it were, how could one explain the reincarnation seal on Sister Little Fairy Doctor's forehead? Wong wong. Ancient green ripples continuously emanated from around Sister Little Fairy Doctor's body. Her beautiful eyes glanced at Leng Qingchen, and the reincarnation seal on her forehead also released a domineering aura of supreme disregard for all life. A fourth-tier reincarnation stage was nothing Xiao Yin could resist. Since obtaining the reincarnation seal, Sister Little Fairy Doctor has come to realize that the gap between each stage within the reincarnation realm is as vast as a chasm, making it impossible to fight across realms easily. Xiao Yin is currently at the peak of the first-tier reincarnation realm, and without using demonic powers, his combat strength is probably only comparable to an average second-tier reincarnation realm practitioner, because the reincarnation realm is incredibly profound. The reason he could fight beyond his level was largely due to the suppression of the outer evil races by the sacred flame. Seeing the familiar rune on Sister Little Fairy Doctor's forehead, Deputy Palace Master Cold Moon Chun clenched his fists with difficulty, and then the powerful poison and venom in his body began to churn and boil under his exquisite control, releasing a greedy fluctuation. This old fool. It wasn't until Cold Moon Chin unleashed the immense power within him, reaching the strength of a near fourth-tier reincarnation realm, that Xiao Yin realized his mistake. It was a huge mistake. The reason he could fight across realms in the reincarnation realm largely depended on the sacred flame's suppression of the outer evil races. But if the opponent was human, this suppression would likely be greatly diminished, and only humans with special attributes could still suppress others. For everyone else, the pressure would increase significantly. Such terrifying poison power and venom. Seeing Cold Moon Chun enveloped in a faint white mist, Xiao Yin couldn't help but gasp. Just now, Cold Qingchen's emotionally haunted illusion realm had cost him quite a bit of effort to crack, and if he hadn't resolved it, the backlash would have been severe. Now, facing an immortal old man, the pressure was growing exponentially. Bold madman. How dare you use despicable means to steal the supreme sacred artifact of the Poison God Palace, the reincarnation of Poison God Mysterious Crane. Do you think someone as insignificant as you can lay a hand on it? Release it now. Spit it out. At this moment, Cold Moon Chin's eyes turned frenzied, and then the immense power of venom within him transformed into countless eerie poisonous chains, directly piercing the void and aiming to strike at Xiao Yin and the others. Such an attack from Cold Moon Chun even made Xiao Yin and Xun'er, who were usually calm, feel a soul-shaking sense of shock. As soon as the words left his mouth, everyone felt their bodies shudder slightly, but before they could react, a brilliant smile suddenly appeared on Sister Little Fairy Doctor's delicate face. Within that smile, a killing intent was palpable, even giving Cold Moon Chin the eerie illusion of impending doom. As Sister Little Fairy Doctor's delicate body quivered slightly, Cold Moon Chin's forehead inexplicably began to bead with sweat, and a rare chill surged in his heart. With his sharp senses, it seemed as though Cold Moon Chin could smell something unusual emanating from Sister Little Fairy Doctor, and he immediately retreated rapidly. However, the power within Sister Little Fairy Doctor was slowly gathering at her chest. A glowing dot, shining with an ancient greenish-blue light, suddenly detached from her body, and then, in her palm, it slowly unleashed a powerful wave of energy. Swallow. The holy venomous pill? One of the two sacred relics of the Poison God Palace? In an instant, even Cold Qingchen, who had been in the dark, subconsciously covered his mouth and narrowed his beautiful eyes in shock, exclaiming, "Hum hum." The greenish-blue light continually trembled. Though it quietly lay in Sister Little Fairy Doctor's palm, it released an ancient and profound energy. Everyone looked up, their eyes fixed on the greenish-blue pearl, which was the size of a dragon's eye, and a strange feeling suddenly arose deep within them. This feeling was so bizarre that it seemed to freeze all the power in their bodies, leaving them standing motionless, staring in awe, muttering, "Indeed, it truly is the poison god's sacred relic. You little brats. You're asking for death." At this moment, Cold Moon Shun, still unwilling to give up, again mobilized the suppressed venom power within him and shot it directly at Sister Little Fairy Doctor. Boom! Sister Little Fairy Doctor didn't respond. With a slight movement of her delicate fingers, an incredibly blinding greenish-blue light burst forth from the pearl in her hand, then perfectly merged with the reincarnation seal on her forehead. Along with Sister Little Fairy Doctor's actions, an incredibly terrifying pressure radiated outward. Welcome the Poison God's Reincarnator. Return to the Mirror Moon Palace. At this moment, the experts from the Mirror Moon Palace spoke with humble and respectful tones, still bowing in reverence. This kind of overwhelming pressure, originating from the depths of the soul, was something they simply could not resist. The Reincarnator of the Poison God. At this moment, even someone as strong as Cold Moon Shun, who was on the verge of the fourth-tier reincarnation realm, felt as though his power had been rendered useless. He stood there, frozen in place, staring resentfully and jealously at Sister Little Fairy Doctor. The Poison God Mysterious Crane had fallen for many years. Even though the Poison God Palace had sent countless individuals in search of it, they had yet to find it. Now, a person carrying the reincarnation seal of the Poison God and one of the sacred relics, the Holy Venomous Pill. How could that not stir jealousy and joy? All right, everyone rise. I am the reincarnator of the Poison God. Looking at the mass of people behind her, who had fallen into disarray, Sister Little Fairy Doctor couldn't help but smile slightly. Her tone was indifferent, and there was a clear warning in her words directed at Cold Moon Shun. She then closed her palm, and the mysterious pressure from the soul dissipated, instantly easing the pressure on those behind her. The crowd couldn't help but raise their heads slowly, gazing at Sister Little Fairy Doctor's figure with the reverence reserved for a true poison god. Now, you should understand the reason, right? Poison Soul Child took a step forward and walked to the front of the crowd. His eyes were cold as he stared at Cold Moon Shun. At this moment, with Sister Little Fairy Doctor's identity revealed, coupled with Xiao Yin and his earlier actions, the relationships between the three became crystal clear. Furthermore, Cold Moon Shin's arrogant behavior just now, the Poison God's reincarnation has descended into the human realm. These two are the trusted friends responsible for protecting the lives of the reincarnators. The success of this reincarnation's return is entirely thanks to their efforts. Any who defy these two esteemed guests will be executed without mercy. Poison Soul Child turned his back and spoke slowly, his voice laced with a chilling intent to kill. 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 Poison Hag is wise. At this moment, many of the strong figures below looked up with deep respect and admiration, their eyes wary as they glanced at Cold Moon Shun. The Poison God's reincarnation and the Holy Venomous Pill? A muttered voice rang out, and Cold Moon Shin's eyes filled with shock. These were things that had been lost to the Poison God realm for a long time, and now, two of them had appeared at once. Glurp! As the sound echoed, Cold Moon Shin hurriedly turned and left. This matter was of great significance, and he had to report it to the Palace Master and make a decision immediately. Mirror Moon Palace Master. After a moment, Sister Little Fairy Doctor's eyes suddenly raised as she gazed at the mist-covered peak of the mountain in the Mirror Moon Palace. Clearly, the events here had already caught the attention of a mighty figure. High in the mountains above the Mirror Moon Palace's stronghold stood ancient palaces, one after another. Among them was an altar, seemingly used for offering sacrifices to spirits. At the edge of the altar stood a transcendent woman, her brows furrowed slightly. She lifted her beautiful eyes to observe the crowd at the base of the mountain. The woman stood quietly, her slender body radiating an aura of infinite strength, deep and unfathomable. In her slightly surprised gaze, there seemed to be a faint shadow of a cauldron flickering in the distance. Subordinate, Greet the palace master. As the crisp, humming voice echoed from the depths of the altar, countless strong figures once again knelt in silence. Vice Palace Master Cold Moonshun, Poison Girl Cold Qingchen, why didn't you inform me of this great disturbance in the mountain? The woman moved through the air as if walking on lotus petals, crossing the near 1,000-meter distance between the foot and peak of the mountain with a single step. She arrived at the base of the mountain, her body surrounded by wisps of milky white mist. She looked at Cold Moonshun and Cold Qingchen, whose faces were ashen with worry. The mist seemed ordinary, with no strange or terrifying fluctuations, but it filled Xiao with a profound, instinctive fear. Mirror Moon Palace Master, although we are at fault for intruding on the mountain, as a mighty figure like yourself, you wouldn't trouble the poison girl of Cold Moon Palace, would you? Hearing the seemingly nonchalant voice of the Mirror Moon Palace Master, Cold Moonshun's body trembled uncontrollably. He quickly spoke up, attempting to shift the responsibility by calling her a poison girl. Not so, not so. Intruding upon the mountain is a trial among the 3 palaces, and naturally, I won't meddle in it. The Mirror Moon Palace Master spoke in a gentle tone, her gaze shifting back to Sister Little Fairy Doctor, as if evaluating and contemplating something. The Palace Master, Vice Palace Master. Just one word separated their power and strength, and the difference was immense. The gap between the stages in the reincarnation realm was already vast, and the differences between the 2nd, 3rd, and even 4th stages were beyond imagination. In the reincarnation realm, as one advanced, the difficulty of progressing increased exponentially. Even the smallest of steps could determine victory or defeat, especially for someone like Cold Moonshun, who had surpassed the 3rd stage. Considering your position, I won't pursue this matter any further. However, the Mirror Moon Palace Master seemed to have thought of something and then smiled. For her, the ultimate goal in life was to unify the Poison God Palace, and now, an extremely rare opportunity lay before her. Naturally, she wouldn't let it slip away. Then thank you, Mirror Moon Palace Master. If there's nothing else, we'll take our leave. Cold Moonshun couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the Mirror Moon Palace Master's behavior. Upon hearing her statement that she wouldn't pursue the matter further, a sense of hesitation crept into him. Subordinate, one of the 3 palaces of the Poison God Palace, Mirror Moon Palace, Princess Mirror Moon. Greetings, Poison God Reincarnator. The Mirror Moon Palace Master smiled gently, then slowly bent forward, her hands in a respectful posture as she bowed to Sister Little Fairy Doctor, who stood silently nearby. Senior, please, there is no need for such formalities. You are the elder, and I am but a junior. Sister Little Fairy Doctor originally had some concerns in her mind, but when she saw the actions of the Mirror Moon Palace Master, all of her doubts vanished completely. With the strength and status of the Mirror Moon Palace Master, being able to perform such a grand gesture in front of everyone had already proven that the latter truly recognized Sister Little Fairy Doctor's identity. The identity of the Poison God Reincarnator was indeed somewhat terrifying, but if the Mirror Moon Palace Master had ill intentions, with the current abilities of Xiao and the others, it would be difficult for them to escape alive. After all, the Mirror Moon Palace Master's strength far surpassed Cold Moonshun's, who had already reached the 2nd-tier reincarnation stage. In fact, the Poison Soul Child was also taking a gamble. After deciding to pledge allegiance to and support Sister Little Fairy Doctor, she was considering whether she could take Sister Little Fairy Doctor back to the Mirror Moon Palace. If Sister Little Fairy Doctor received the Mirror Moon Palace's support, unifying the 3 palaces would be just around the corner. But if the Mirror Moon Palace Master became overly greedy, what awaited them would be an irreversible calamity. Fortunately, their gamble paid off. Someone, deliver my command from the Palace Master. From this moment on, Sister Little Fairy Doctor shall be the Saintess of my Mirror Moon Palace and the highest authority. All within the Mirror Moon Palace must obey the Saintess without question. Those who defy the order shall be killed without mercy. Of course, for those who openly provoke or defy the Saintess, we also have the right to directly eliminate them. The vast voice, carrying an unquestionable authority, slowly spread. Run. At this moment, Cold Moon Chin's pupils contracted slightly, and without sparing a glance at the poison hag, she swiftly fled in the opposite direction. Humph! Cold Moon Palace Deputy Palace Master Cold Moon Chin openly defied the Saintess, even attempting to use her original poison power to kill the Saintess. She deserves to die. Watching the rapidly fleeing figure, the Mirror Moon Palace Master's voice was calm and distant. A faint milky white liquid dripped from her delicate body, easily cutting off all of Cold Moon Chin's escape routes. A chilling, murderous aura, as tangible as substance, slowly emanated from the seemingly delicate woman before them. That power had already surpassed this entire realm. Even Xiao Yin, feeling this materialized killing intent, couldn't help but sigh. The level of power she wielded could definitely rank in the top 3 among the strongest beings Xiao Yin had ever encountered. Mirror Moon, you're going too far. I am still the Deputy Palace Master of Cold Moon Palace. How dare you? Feeling the terrifying poison energy filling the thick white mist, Cold Moon Chun roared as she desperately fled. The difference in their strengths was like a chasm. If the Mirror Moon Palace made a move, she had no chance of winning. Senior, let me handle this. Taking a breath, Sister Little Fairy Doctor slowly shook her head, and with a flick of her jade hand, a greenish energy slowly emanated. Not good. At this moment, fear flickered in Cold Moon Chin's eyes as she quickly spoke. With the holy venomous pill in Sister Little Fairy Doctor's possession, her threat level was even more terrifying than the Mirror Moon Palace Masters. The innate suppression and threat were enough to crush Cold Moon Chun to dust. Crack! The void binding began to slowly collapse, and Cold Moon Chin's body was completely trapped, unable to move. All the power within her was suppressed. Someone, take her away and keep her under strict watch. The Mirror Moon Palace Master spoke coldly, releasing a wave of powerful energy. Saintess, as wise as always. The group responded slowly, their voices filled with unprecedented excitement. With the Poison God Reincarnation Seal and the Poison God's Token Inheritance, how could the Poison God Palace not flourish? Let's go. There are still many matters to handle. 2 distinguished guests, Poison Hag, thank you for your assistance on this journey. A soft voice sounded, and the group dispersed, clearly aware of the terrifying events that were about to unfold. Meanwhile, Sister Little Fairy Doctor and the others were taken deep into the Mirror Moon Palace's residence, where powerful figures were assigned to secretly protect them. 10 days passed quietly. During this time, Xiao Yin and Xun'er enjoyed some peaceful and uneventful days, while Sister Little Fairy Doctor had been busy with various tasks assigned by the Mirror Moon Palace Master. Knock, knock, knock. The door to Xiao Yin and Xun'er's room was gently knocked on, and Xun'er got up to check. Sister Little Fairy Doctor? She opened the door to see a figure resembling a Qinglian fairy, with an elderly woman, looking near the end of her years, standing behind her. The elderly woman had her eyes slightly closed and remained silent, following closely behind Sister Little Fairy Doctor as if protecting her. The Palace Master has been taking good care of me these past few days, but I must apologize for neglecting you both. After a moment, Sister Little Fairy Doctor gave a warm smile and spoke with a hint of apology to Xiao Yin and Xun'er. Saintess, let's discuss important matters. Although these 2 are your friends, it's best to minimize contact with outsiders during these turbulent times. As she spoke, the elderly woman's voice rang out, her expression extremely serious. Sister Little Fairy Doctor shook her head. While this situation was quite beneficial to her, she wasn't sure if Xiao Yin and the others would understand. By the way, I've already spoken to the Palace Master. The scroll with the sealed dough technique in the palace. Xiao Yin, you can follow Senior Poison God to retrieve it. If you can obtain it, it will be a great opportunity. After thinking for a moment, Sister Little Fairy Doctor spoke directly. For her current status, the Mirror Moon Palace Master was practically eager to hold her in the palm of her hand, so any request she made would be readily fulfilled. Why wait for another day when today is just as good? Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan's eyes immediately filled with fiery enthusiasm. A great celestial technique, and one that belonged to their Xiao clan's fire attribute dough technique. Its power and value were unmatched in his eyes. Hearing Xiao Yan's words, Senior Poison God did not hesitate. With a flick of his figure, the four of them instantly left the house and moved toward the distant palace. The Mirror Moon Palace was vast in size. Although it was home to countless poisonous creatures, toxic plants, and magical beasts, under Senior Poison God's guidance, the group easily traversed many poisonous miasmas and arrived at their destination. The scroll is within this stone hall. If fate allows, feel free to take it. But if fate does not, do not force it. Senior Poison God said, and his aura receded, hiding next to Sister Little Fairy Doctor. Such terrifying power. Xiao Yin nodded slightly. He could naturally sense that this old man's strength was probably on par with Cold Moon Chan. With her protection, Sister Little Fairy Doctor's safety was not a concern. The Poison God Palace truly was a place of hidden talents. The stone hall was grand and imposing, surrounded by towering mountain peaks shrouded in mist, resembling an immortal's paradise. Apart from the stone hall, there were several magnificent buildings, evidently designed to house the precious Do techniques and martial arts of the Mirror Moon Palace. Around the stone hall, an extremely dense poisonous mist swirled. Without the help of a strong Mirror Moon Palace cultivator, it would likely be impossible to open the stone hall. Let's begin. With a wave of his hand, Senior Poison God unleashed a thick, green toxic mist that shot forward and gently entered the stone hall before them. Whoosh! A sound rang out, and the terrifying force of the poison surged, forming a strange vortex in the center of the stone hall's main door. The massive suction force pulled Xiao Yin and the others in, and Xiao Yin could clearly smell an ancient, desolate aura emanating from within the vortex. Thank you, Senior. Let's go. At that moment, Xiao Yan's usually calm eyes flickered with intense excitement. Without hesitation, he grabbed Xun'er's hand and stepped into the stone hall. Senior, do you think they will succeed? It wasn't until Xiao Yin and Xun'er had disappeared for a while that Sister Little Fairy Doctor slowly spoke. Saintess, these are not things you should concern yourself with. Right now, what you should focus on is how to quickly integrate the power within the poison core and protect yourself. After all, what happened 10 days ago has likely already leaked out. With the temperament of the other two palace masters, they won't allow a genius with the woeful poison body to grow freely. A soft voice echoed, and Sister Little Fairy Doctor, along with Senior Poison God, left the area and headed back to the Mirror Moon Palace to focus on cultivating the poison core in her body. However, with only about a month until the Poison God selection, this period would undoubtedly be the most tumultuous time for the Poison God Palace. On the surface, everything seemed calm, but beneath it, stormy currents likely churned in secret. Thud, thud, thud. As they entered the stone hall, an ancient and sealed atmosphere surrounded them. There was no trace of toxic miasma, only a flow of ancient waves that had accumulated over endless years. Xiao Yin Gij, magma, volcano. Beads of sweat appeared on Xun'er's face, but her mind was filled with confusion. It seemed that there was no other kind of power in this world, only an intensely pure flame force. Before them stood an enormous volcanic region, with red-hot lava constantly spilling out. At the center of the volcano, a crimson scroll stood quietly within the crater. No matter how the years and flames scorched it, the scroll remained still, shrouded in mystery. What a peculiar space. Xiao Yin and Xun'er stood at the edge of the stone hall's volcanic world, gazing at the vast molten lava realm before them, a sense of awe overwhelming their hearts. The Poison God Palace had a long tradition, but its Do techniques were all intimately connected with poison. Now, seeing the scroll in the volcano, said to be a great celestial level technique that no one had ever successfully cultivated, Xiao Yin couldn't help but feel a familiar sensation. Undoubtedly, this was a unique fluctuation belonging to their Xiao clan. Sister Little Fairy Doctor was right after all. This Do technique scroll contains a powerful Xiao clan seal. Only a member of our clan can successfully cultivate it. I don't think Poison God Mysterious Crane anticipated this. Xun'er smiled gently. Let's head to the volcano's mouth first. Xiao Yin nodded, his gaze fixed on the distant volcano's molten world. It seemed that beneath the magma, a terrifying aura still lingered. His pace quickened as he moved forward, protected by the sacred flame. The searing heat from the volcanic magma was nothing to them. After walking for 10 minutes, they easily reached the molten world at the volcano's crater. It was an incredibly hot flame space, with the bottom of the space filled with scalding red molten lava. In its center, an ancient scroll, glowing with red flames, floated quietly atop the lava flow. The once calm surroundings were now disturbed by the surging magma and flames below, and an astonishing force continuously surged forth. Without enough strength to sustain oneself, this place could easily become a forbidden zone for humans. Woo-woo. Upon entering the molten void, a strange fluctuation hit them head-on, immediately causing the clan mark on Xiao Yan's forehead to release a gentle force. The power of the clan mark resonated with the scroll floating in the magma below. Xiao Yingij. Xun'er murmured softly, her beautiful eyes suddenly looking down. It seemed that there were some terrifying creatures lurking within the fire-red, flame-wrapped magma world. Sacred flame. Clan mark. Xiao Yan clearly sensed the mysterious creatures within the world below. So he activated the sacred flame within him, and the runes on his forehead manifested. As Xiao Yan's power was unleashed, the magma below, which had just stirred slightly, returned to calm once again. It seemed that the mysterious creatures hidden in the void beneath had been repelled by Xiao Yan's force. Woo-woo. Let me see what kind of Do skill scroll my Xiao clan ancestors left behind. Xiao Yan nodded firmly, the glassy sacred flame swirling around him, enveloping his body tightly. The clan mark on his forehead slowly activated, emitting a wave of familiar and comforting energy. Whom! Xiao Yan's entire body radiated fiery light as he stepped forward, walking toward the molten world below. The intense, fiery fluctuations in his mind became impossible to conceal. The immense battle power he had was the result of his cultivation methods, Do skills, and battle experience combined. With every step he took, the terrifying pressure in the air around him made Xiao Yan's skin tighten, and even his strength seemed to shrink to an extraordinary degree. Creak. As he continued walking, the space around him distorted, and waves of suffocating heat attacked him. Fortunately, Xiao Yan had previously devoured countless flames, or this firepower alone would have been enough to melt him away. Boom, boom, boom. Enduring the fire poison that seemed to burrow into his very bones, Xiao Yan finally reached the scroll, his hands outstretched as he grasped it tightly. Rumble. The moment Xiao Yan took the scroll, the previously raging lava world suddenly fell into silence, and the entire fiery realm became deathly still. Rumble. As soon as he held the scroll, an ancient, murderous aura seeped out from it. The terrifying power was enough to crush any strong practitioner into dust. Whom! Fortunately, just as this mysterious power was about to strike Xiao Yan, the power of his clan surged forth, quickly dissipating the malevolent force. Xiao Yingij, what is this thing? At this moment, Xun'er, intrigued, rushed up beside him. Shoo. Xiao Yan closed his eyes, refraining from using any soul power. Instead, he slowly injected the clan mark's power from his forehead into the scroll. At that moment, an ancient aura, sealed away for countless years, slowly emanated from the scroll. The once tightly closed scroll began to unfold before Xiao Yan and Xun'er. Xiao clan's secret technique. For golden and emerald words emerged from the scroll. The invisible power stung both Xiao Yan and Xun'er, causing their bodies to tremble slightly, but more than that, it was excitement, even madness. Great celestial technique. Purgatory gate. Rumble. A distant female cry echoed out, and immediately, a black, ancient stone gate quietly fell from the scroll. As it descended, the entire fiery world trembled. Then, a black stone gate, covered in eerie and strange runes, suppressed the entire world around the two. From the stone gate, black ghost flames erupted, their contained power so terrifying that it sent a chill down their spines. Domain? Xun'er shuddered as she sensed the black ghost flames pouring from the stone gate. It seemed that this power could rival even the sacred flame. This isn't a domain. But this Do skill must be related to the Hell Realm. It seems that this so-called Xiao clan female war god has some connection to the Hell Realm. At this moment, Xiao Yin was surrounded by a shimmering glassy light, standing tall like an eternal war god. Rumble. The Purgatory gate expanded outward. A moment later, a terrifying pressure, indescribable and crushing, emanated from the gate itself. Truly an interesting descendant. I originally only intended to leave this bit of power as a warning to the world, but it seems such a fortunate coincidence. Since that's the case, I'll bestow upon you some fortune. A sweet, melodious voice slowly echoed through the air, and immediately, a surge of black energy erupted from the scroll, infusing into the Purgatory gate. At that very moment, the entire fiery world trembled, and countless black ghost flames fell from the Purgatory gate. Wherever they passed, the void cracked and shattered. Such power was so overwhelming that even with the combined strength of Xiao Yin and Xun'er, they would likely face certain death with no chance of survival. Descendant of the Xiao clan, follow my guidance and construct the reincarnation domain. The eerie voice resonated, and the countless black ghost flames that had fallen from the Purgatory gate were ominous and malevolent. Yet, at the peak of this fiery world, they coalesced into a dark shadow. This shadow caused both Xiao Yin and Xun'er to involuntarily gasp in shock, but the fluctuation of the clan mark on their foreheads, along with the previous voice, made it quite easy to guess the identity of the figure.